got an invitation to submit stage one. And so that's where you're at right now.
Steve, Superintendent, can you correct me on one thing? In that meeting, didn't Doge Silva, and that was the one that you, myself, Mike was there, and Art was there by phone. Didn't they say on that one, on this, if we go this track, again, there's 2 tracks you can go on. And if that, for this one, they're gonna just start, as the applications come in, they're just gonna start acting on it, that's the one. So there's no set, there's not so much a deadline, but they're gonna act on things as the completed applications come in, right? Yeah. So in other words, it's like, it's not a deadline per se, but they're gonna act on things as they come in, and there's only so many things they're gonna approve.
Would it interfere with the process if we continued? I read this, but I didn't understand that there was a difference between fast track and the major projects.
Yeah.
If we continue it to December, are we interfering with the process? Are we slowing it down or slowing it down?
I would rather, I mean, Mrs. Nato, I think it would be wiser in December if after collaborating with Mr. Bassett and the PBIC to come back and say, okay, this is the level of support we need, because I can get going on some of this in the near future, but there are parts I can't, and so at least if I can get going on my parts, I think the other issue too is that this major projects, I have a sense from the PBIC that in discussions that this one's going to include everything. It not only will include the fast track issues, but it'll include anything else. But right now, stage one is what's called, you present the problem or the issues.
Okay.
So it's not solution driven until stage two.
So if we vote on this tonight, then possibly in December, we'll vote on where we find the money for the pieces that you need to have help with.
And I don't mean to speak to Mr. Bassett, I didn't know he wasn't coming, but I would think that, he wanted to move forward.
Leanne and Mike?
Well, I was just going to say, I was at the meeting for the PBIC and all of this, and if it helps to clarify, they're just, both projects are running simultaneously, for lack of a better term.
Okay.
That if this one doesn't work, we have this one set and ready to go. So, in my opinion, time is of the essence so that Mr. Lindbergh can get started. We're not locked into anything. It's not a monetary commitment. It's nothing like that. It's just so that people can start, have the permission and the approval to start going forward with this. So with that being said, can I make a motion?
Sure, Mike,
Or we have to wait?
You can make a motion and then I'll ask my question.
Okay. My motion would be to approve step 2 of the major projects program going forward, that Mr. Lindbergh can start to work on some of these things with other people that can help out with the understanding. Am I going too fast?
No.
Yes.
Sorry. I saw your pen stop, sorry.
I'm trying to listen ahead, but
Yeah. With
approval
the,
of stage 2 major project
Actually,
program.
it's step 2, it's called
step 2 of stage 1 major
application.
projects program.
Just to begin the
Okay.
work.
Just to begin the process,
Yeah.
with the understanding that there will be a follow-up meeting with Mr. Bassett and the other members to try to figure out where we're going to go from here.
I'll second that
Second.
motion.
All good.
Discussion, I'm seeing on the letter of November 3rd, the second paragraph, the last sentence of the second paragraph. Please note that if the LEA is targeting an FY16 council approval for the fast track and major projects, the applications can be merged, but they must both follow the fast track repairs timeline outlined in the attached guidance to ensure timely reviews. Now, when they submitted the stage 1 for the fast track, it was with the idea that they might merge the major projects with that. So according to this language, have we already violated something here?
I don't think so, Mike, because we didn't get the letter on the invitation to apply in the stage major projects program until just recently. So I think you got a good point. We're going to have to figure out how to merge. If the stage 2 on fast track is due on or before March 15th, then we might have to accelerate the major projects. But I would really like to defer to Mr. Bassett to talk to Dr. De Silva on that. But I think it even highlights Leanne's point is if that's the case, then you probably want me to get going on what I can.
Well, yeah, but wasn't there a deadline for the fast track stage 1 application?
We met.
Yeah, we met.
November
Okay,
16th.
so if this is saying a major project can be merged, they both must follow the major fast tracks repairs timeline. So in my mind, as I'm reading this, I'm saying, okay, if the deadline for the fast tracks was Monday, then the deadline for submitting the major projects, if you intend to merge them down the road, was also Monday. And the whole point of submitting the stage one for the fast track was merging them down the road. And to me, that sentence indicates you can't merge.
Well, I kind of look at it differently, Mike. We got this letter on November 3rd. I think for us to have a major projects, stage one submitted by, including the weekend, I don't know how many days after. I would just defer to Mr. Bassett to have that conversation with Dr. De Silva. If Dr. De Silva says that, oh, you missed it, you can't do it,
Well, here's what I'll
then
read. I'll be a lawyer for Mike now, right? And I'll be Mr. Scudder. It says can be merged. Doesn't mean it has to. It doesn't say must be merged. It says can be. So can be, it can be too.
so maybe the major projects.
No, they don't say that. They don't say, it says can be.
No.
I don't care what you want to read into it. I'm reading their words. It says can be merged.
No, John,
So
the PPIC wants them to be merged.
I understand that, but they're leaving it open to you. Can be or can't be. It doesn't say must.
That's a good point. The other issue too, John, is that the major projects could
It
include
can be.
the stuff in the fast track. It's a separate application.
They can be merged. If
Somebody
I don't
make a
want to merge
question.
them, I don't have to.
Yeah, we can't change what's already been done, all we can do is look forward, and if we can't, if we can't merge them, we can't.
They don't know
merge
what
them.
they're doing at the state anyway.
We'll ask
no.
Art to ask Ryan.
Well,
That's
that's,
it.
oh,
Is someone gonna do that?
We'll get to that criteria.
Is someone going to ask Art to do that? To contact Ryan and just ask for clarification on that sentence?
I will.
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, up next is 5, status reconfiguration, I want to report reconfiguration, oh, Mr. Bassett.
You can't do that.
Okay, moving right along. Update on the emergency contingency reconfiguration plan, the Halliday. It's 5A.
Right. I just wanted to know where it stood and we have information in our packet.
Yep. And yeah, we did it right here, everybody got it? Everybody good? Everybody good? Can we-
So the report indicates that basically it's possible if need be, hopefully it won't be needed
Yes, ma'am.
in the next 2 years.
Yes, and this was the quick short-term one. So we could close 1 or 2 buildings at Hallowell. And thank you for saying that, Mrs. Nato, if there was an emergency, because it's still a major project, and it would involve rescheduling and children getting different service providers. So, but we, certainly if it's an emergency, we absolutely can do it. So
Do you
this
really
is,
need right approval for an emergency? I
So,
mean,
I don't-
if something awful happened to 2 classrooms and you had to move the children, you don't really have much choice.
so I don't think we need it, but I would definitely inform them, just to be on the
Oh,
safe
right,
side.
but I thought I read
I
that
had
you needed
that
their
sense.
permission.
Yeah, I had that sense. I'd rather make sure.
Well,
So,
I know there was some confusion in October, but this is just absolute emergency. Art made it clear that Hallowell's going to be open for at least 2
Yeah.
years. And this was to just
Okay.
preclude us from
well,
spending
hopefully this met your
money.
needs. So, thank you.
My question. I'm puzzled why in this plan, we're indicating that we would need more art teachers at, it's sounding like, are we increasing the staff if we move the 3rd grade over to this building, or is it?
Well, it kind of spells it out right there, Mike. Do you have a question on a specific, a question on a specific plan? Could you cite the page number or?
Well,
I think it's just bumping.
I think I can answer.
Yeah, please.
Please.
This is just, and please correct me if I'm wrong, this is just an emergency plan. So if we write, snow blizzard comes in and we lose a roof, 2 3rd grade or 2 4th grade classrooms from Hallowell have to go over to NSES. Well, the art teacher is still at Hallowell to teach the kids that are at Hallowell. Well, that art teacher has to drive over to teach art or whatever the other class is at NSES. So the time that they're currently there, I believe it's part-time, Mrs. Jolin or Mrs. Dano, correct?
Yeah.
It's going to have to be increased because we have to give them the time to get over there They get themselves set up so that they can.
But you're not adding staff, was Mike's question. It's
Well, you're
just increasing
increasing,
a little bit.
you're going to have to
Existing
increase
staff.
time, so if it's a
Yeah.
.5 position, it might have to be a .2, because I believe in the contract, anyone that goes from, and somebody from the contract, please help me here, if you're traveling, you have to be given a certain amount of time to be able to travel from one building to the other. It's not a matter of, okay, it's only gonna take me 10 minutes to get there, well, you've gotta park, you've gotta get out of your car, you've gotta get your room set up, you've gotta be ready to teach the kids and greet the kids and go from there. So I believe there's language, I think,
it's on page
right,
10.
in the contract that,
Yes.
so it would be bumping, I mean, are we gonna have to hire somebody? No, I don't think so, from what I see in what I read, but if a .5 person,
Could be a
they're not gonna
0.7.
be able .5, they're gonna be a .7, right?
You have to address what
And it's an
happened.
emergency.
Yeah.
Emergency.
Yeah.
I mean, if some,
So yes, it would. Thank you, Leanne. Yes, you're absolutely right. They estimated a .15, which is not even a, I don't know, it's not even a half day.
thank you. Can we go to the dashboard reporting, item 6? Good? Yeah, oh, yeah. All right, well,
That's just an update on Hallowell expenses.
That's what he's doing, yeah.
okay.
And the information's in our packet.
That was the Hallowell project. Potential special meeting to address county requests from other North Smithfield school boards.
That's just a standing item.
Okay. 8, update NES, 2-year progress report.
We requested it to be a standing item.
Anything other than our request?
Nope.
Sorry. Well, I know we had some things, if I could put my hands on it. I know we had some things that we haven't worked on yet, or we're not addressing. Do you know the deadline, does anybody know the deadline of when we have to respond to where we're at, to NEAS, and then they have to give us another response
They
to
said
our
January,
update?
they're gonna review
Could you
it.
come on up and speak to it? Because you already submitted one progress report, so thank
Sorry,
you.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot for time, but I'm just concerned with some, I mean, if they're in progress, I know that's one thing,
Yeah,
but
the two,
there's some things that we're not working on because we haven't given the money to do something, and I don't want to lose accreditation or anything like that, so.
right, so there are some items that are in progress, some have been completed, and some have not been addressed. The ones that haven't been addressed are primarily the media, the library, the position, and the funding.
So when we have to give, don't you have to give an update back to NEAS? at a
I
certain
had to give them a 2-year update, I did that in October,
Yeah,
and
they're
they
gonna
said they would get
respond.
back to me, they won't even review it till January, and they're gonna get back to me in January. I guess there's a backlog of it.
and then do you know what their timeline is from there going forward?
I do know.
Okay, I didn't know if that was written anywhere, I couldn't find it, but I didn't know, I was just missed something. Mr. Lindberg, do you know
I
if
don't know
timeline
the
going forward for
timeline.
NEAS? Okay.
They had assigned a specific person to the school, and that person has since retired, so somebody else is picking up the ball now, so I'll know more about that in January, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Okay, new business, number 1, school committee organization of committee officers, Mr. Bassett. Not here. Anyone on that?
But I think he wants to, you know,
Report.
kind of say who's the secretary, who's the vice chairman, who's, you know, he wants to vote on all of those. I don't know what you want to do with that.
Wait for Mr. Bassett?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have to.
Okay.
And then, you know, it'd be nice if Mr. Lombardi's on, just so. we-
Sure, yeah, that would be.
You know, you get everybody and then you can figure out how you want to.
That would be too neat.
Yeah, I don't know if that's okay. I'm just trying to make it so everybody's involved, you get.
Everybody has a chance to vote, yeah.
Correct.
Makes sense. All right, so Mr. Lombardi comes on, you come on at the end of January 1, right?
Yes.
All right.
Also ready.
Right, right. Okay,
Well, can we put it on the next agenda for Mr. Bassett so he can decide what he's doing with it then?
sure. Go to the next agenda. But again, Mr. Motion to continue. Does anybody make, I'll make a motion. Motion to continue second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, ayes have it. Next up is meetings, communications, email protocol. Just want to mention that before, I mean, in the past, what we've done is, you know, a lot of times communications are sent to the superintendent or to Sherry, and then get sent over to someone else. I just want to remind everybody, okay, I'm not citing any examples, I'm just reminding people. If you send an email out to all 7 members of the committee, that's potentially an open meeting violation. If we send it out to 4 members, it's potentially an open meetings violation. I'm not telling people what to do, but I'm just saying be very careful of that. Yes, there's an exception where you can contact people about scheduling something, but you start getting into a back and forth discussion and a request, or asking for information, or expressing an opinion, you're running a potential open meetings violation. And if you run an open meetings violation, it's not just a potential $5,000 fine, there's attorney's fees involved. And there's a 2013 case where one of the, the Anna case, I believe it was the Anna case, where there was like $30-something thousand awarded against the school department for attorney's fees. That was just 2 years ago. I mean, it's not just $5,000 fee, it can be pretty significant. So the answer is just this. Just be careful with the emails, and what you want to make sure you do is don't send to more. Remember, if you send to 3 people, that's 4 people. I've seen it. So
If I can add to that, right now, our committee is down to 6 people until Mr. Lombard is on board. So
But the
you can't
numbers-
send it to 3. You can only send it to 2.
Help
Because
me
we
with
only
that.
have
Well, Bob
a
is still,
forum.
Bob is still on.
Oh,
Bob is still on, yeah, so it's still 4, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to add one.
Can I ask a question of the solicitor? Ben,
Also,
if I send a letter to the superintendent, or an email to the superintendent, and I put at the top, please do not reply to all, or it would be an OMA violation, why can't I send him a letter that I'm sending him, if I want, and CC the other members of the school committee, so they're aware that I made that request?
So if any one of them responds to
But
that.
the violation only
I'm
comes
gonna-
in.
I'm gonna tell you. So if any one of them responds to that email, you establish their own forum. That's the problem that Bill's pointing out, and want you to be careful. And I think the committee has to be really careful. Like, for instance, you were talking about the subcommittee, budget committee, meeting with Lisa. So if 2 of you constitute a subcommittee of the committee, you need to post that before you can meet with it. You can't have an informal meeting. So you really got to be careful, because we don't know who's going to be out there that will file an open meetings complaint or a records complaint at some point.
So would
All
we,
your emails are potentially discoverable by the Attorney General in the event that there's an exchange among you. There may be some information in that exchange that you don't want to be public. Once it hits the AG's office, they can make anything that you submit to them public. I think Bill has given you some very measured, good advice. Let's try not to have correspondence by email among school committee people at all, if you can avoid it. But just be really careful. So if it's just to schedule a meeting, it's fine. The best thing to do is to CC to send something to the superintendent, CC the chair, and just leave it at that, rather than having it go all the way around. Because if you're transmitting information, you're going to get yourselves into trouble.
But the violation would occur if we started. Responded to it. So
Yeah.
if they don't respond to it, there's no harm in sharing with the whole committee a document that was forwarded to the superintendent.
You get into a real dangerous
Yeah.
area. Yeah.
I would
You should say that for a school committee meeting.
I think you
So we
just
could put it in the packets.
Yeah.
if you
Yeah,
send
that's
some
fine.
information out, I think the AG hasn't
All right.
fully ruled on that, but I think just sending out certain information could be a
You're
violation.
getting into a very gray area.
Yeah.
Right, so for scheduling a meeting, however, you said,
Yeah.
if it's to schedule a meeting and set the agenda,
Yes.
that is allowable.
Yes, there's an exemption to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to call for a special meeting, obviously, if you need X number of people to call for a
There's
special
been 4
meeting.
members, I think, on the bylaw.
So you'd have to, that would be allowable
Or
too.
the clerk, I think, is scheduled.
That's what I-
Sherry's always done that in the past, Mike. That's why she's been the one to schedule meetings and poll a committee for special meetings. That's why
They send it to her and then she sends it out.
people typically, in the past, would send it to myself, Sherry, and the chair. And then Sherry would be directed to poll a committee.
So she finds dates that are available for everybody, and she'll facilitate the meeting.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's been the tradition that we've evolved over time, and preferred to what our bylaws, the tradition that the chair has.
If somebody makes a comment along the way, Bill's right, you know, in an innocent exchange, and then it's a
Yep.
violation, somebody will call you on
Or it gets copied or forwarded to somebody else.
Can you,
Yeah.
can you go back to what you were saying about the budget
it.
subcommittee?
Subcommittee, yeah,
Did you-
subcommittee.
if we meet with Lisa, we have to post it as
Should be
an open,
posted,
as a
yeah.
meeting?
If there's how many of us present?
Any
The committee's
subcommittee.
meeting, any subcommittee, any
Any
subcommittee
subcommittee
meeting.
of the school
So we
committee,
have to do it
as
40
long as
every
there's a
40 days.
majority there. So if it's a committee of 2, even if you have one, you need to post it. If you're meeting as that subcommittee.
Go on the SOS.
Are you a designated you're a designated subcommittee to the budget committee, so, but if you're just 2 or 3 school committee members that want to meet with Lisa and myself and Sherry and Lisa to look at the documents, is that necessary? Just asking.
You could post it, what's the harm?
Well, the only
Yeah.
difference is we're a
It's gotta be
committee,
open.
subcommittee, right?
To the budget committee.
Differences. But we're a school committee
Yeah, I think
subcommittee.
you're better off posting.
Okay.